Well, good afternoon, everyone. Well, apart from Michael, of course, who's where it's still early morning. Good morning, Michael. Thank you all for joining us. This is the Broadcom work group in Virtual Room 5, and this is session 5AH. What is AIOps and how can it help me manage the mainframe? My name is Phil Howard-Knight, and I will be chairing this session. Please note that the session is being recorded and it will be available via Vimeo. All registered attendees will receive an email after the conference with a link to the Vimeo site. If you have any questions for the presenter, then could you please submit them via the Zoom chat window using the message to everyone. And at the end of Michael's presentation, I will run through them with him and make sure they all get answered. If you have any specific points or questions about the session or the logistics, then please feel free to address them directly to me via the host only option in the chat window. One thing, please do provide feedback about the session. This helps us enormously with our conference planning. Ideally, you could do this straight after the end of the session. The feedback can be accessed either from links on the abstract page or your BYOE agenda, where there's a link directly to the relevant feedback, or by scanning the QR code, which will be on the last page of the presentation. One thing to note, please note the best answer for question 1 is 5, not 9 as it is for all the others. One final thing as well is that there will be a copy of the presentation available for download on the conference website. If you click on the little picture of a man, it will take you to the presentation. So at that point, I'd like to hand over to our speaker Michael Keel, who will introduce himself. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. So this is what is AIOps and how can it help me manage the mainframe? Name is Michael Keel. I am in the AIOps and automation strategy a value stream at Broadcom. I am responsible for the product management organization within that value stream and helping to move forward with the strategy of these toolings that we have. So what is AIOps? This is really a synergy between AI and operations. And as you know, artificial intelligence, AI has been around for decades, and it's really been applied across lots and lots of businesses. So as we move into this new era of exploding data and having evolving computing modules, we are poised to take AI into this new niche of the operations environment. And I can't progress slides. There we go. Okay, so as you know, things have been changing very rapidly. I think I've seen this at Heathrow, where you can actually go through and get a boarding pass and get on your plane just by using the video screen. This is just an amazing thing that really takes a lot of technologies together. There's a lot of back-end work that needs to get done just to do that. And this is being applied across lots and lots of different industries. The travel industry is actually using AI technology to figure out when is the best time to book a flight. It's going through mining all the data, understanding the trends of when flights change, when the price is there. And instead of you having to keep track of all that like you've had to do in years past, there's actually systems that will go through and predict the cheapest day for you and send you notifications saying, okay, now is the day that you should be booking that vacation that you wanted to book. And as we all know, retail is doing the same exact thing. And how many times have you been on a site like Amazon and it's telling you all the things that you just searched on the website and asking you if you'd like to buy stuff for it? It's actually a little annoying, but it does help you find things that will get you those technologies and products that you're looking for. And then stock options are doing the same thing, where they are allowing you to, instead of having to pay for an advisor and talk to them and set up goals and all that stuff, you can actually go in and fine tune all that stuff within their applications, and their AI technologies will manage your stock portfolio for you. 24/7, giving you that understanding and actually maximizing your investment based upon what you've done. But the big thing is when you go to these sites, there are a lot of technologies behind the scenes that are needed for this, and you're just expecting them to work. I mean, if you're having an AI technology manage your stock portfolio, you want it to work. You don't want it to have problems. You don't want it to back up. You want it to be quick and doing what you want it to be. So where does this kind of lay into the mainframe? Well, the problem is that every time you click something on that device, it spreads out into hundreds and hundreds of thousands of transactions and services and proprietary components and maybe open source components. And there's just a lot going on there. It just becomes a massive spider web of, of information and processes and flows. Adding to the problem there is you're not the only one pushing a button. There's hundreds of thousands of people pushing a button at the same time, and there's more than one button. So it just gets very, very convoluted, overlaying, and becomes a very massive, massive piece of work. So to compete, and enterprises need to not only deliver the code, but they need to operate these digital experiences in a way that will delight their customers and risk them from jumping to a competitor. So this is kind of where AIOps comes into play. So we are looking at trying to manage that massive web of what's going on the systems. We are looking at constantly monitoring workloads to avoid service interruptions, shutdowns, and outages using predictive algorithms, helping to diagnose root cause faster and reduce problem recovery times by surfacing patterns, correlations, and recommendations on possible causation factors, enhancing systems and application performance by making it easier to find data flow, bottlenecks, and risky components, or dynamically adjusting to traffic patterns, and improving compute resource utilization to help balance between the dual priorities of budgets and the great end user experience. So when we start talking about artificial intelligence at this level, there is the big elephant in the room. Are we trying to get rid of all of the domain experts and the users and those operators and all those people? And really what we have found is that it doesn't really work well that way. That domain expertise and the computer need to be married together. And that's really where you're going to get your biggest bang for your buck. If you try and use just one or the other, it is really going to start holding you back in your systems. A good example of this is around those AI technologies that have been around for a while, like the one that Ken Jennings lost to on Jeopardy. So as you saw, it just kind of brute forced its way through those Jeopardy items, just kind of kept searching, finding things out. The chess games are very much on that level. It will go through and it can run through hundreds of thousands of iterations before those chess masters like Garry Kasparov can go through and understand what's going on. There's only so much that he can keep in his head and understand about the game that the computer can continuously iterate through. But on the flip side, if you marry the person and the AI together, it actually flips the other direction, and those teams start winning. So there was actually a chess match in 2005 where you were allowed to have a human enter, a computer enter, or you could have a team of human and computer enter. And what ended up happening is the team it was a novice chess player and an AI system actually beat the best chess system from AI, because the AI system was going through and running all those calculations and giving a list of recommendations on what he thought it should do. And then the human was then looking at those choices and figuring out which one actually seemed best for the strategy going forward. And that enabled that team to actually beat that. It was actually called Hydra, was the name of the AI system, which was the best chess system in the world at that point. So it was that marrying of the two together that actually produced the best results. And this is really what we want to push forward with our AIOps strategy, is that it's the marrying of the intelligence system and the domain expertise that is going to give you the best results. So how do you do this, and how do you kind of move forward? he said it is very much an incremental step. It is a destination. So what we're looking at is kind of comparing this to the self-driving cars that a lot of us have seen. It's still an evolving technology, and there are many iterative steps that you got to go through. We didn't just go from a manual steering with the crank up cars directly to the car that drives itself and understands what's going on. We had to move into things like the cruise control that gives you that allows you to drive without having to maintain speed, and then you had the adjusting cruise control, and then you had blind spot warning, and then the parking assist. All these things are iterative steps that move towards a self-driving car. And that's really what we need to look at in AIOps, is taking that iterative step forward while marrying the two technologies together. Okay. So if we look at the examples that I gave earlier, so from a travel standpoint, if we're looking at prioritizing stuff, really what we want to look at, what they're looking at there is mining the data, understanding what's going on the systems, and being able to trend those changes as they go through in the system. So they've got large amounts of data all pulled together. They're going out and talking. If they are a travel site, they're going out and talking to all the different airlines, pulling in the prices and the flights and capacities and all that stuff, and trying to find out when would be the best time for you to book your flight, right? So this is really the same process that we want to go through with AIOps. It's very, very, very similar to like a capacity planner. This is something that we would normally do once a year, maybe a couple more times if you have a volatile shop, of understanding where your capacity is, where you need to add hardware, where you need to add software, where you need to do those various things. Well, if you can have a technology constantly mining that data and giving you insights, and then giving you the ROI of what would be the best thing for me to add. Would it be best for me to add a new disk over here? Would it have out a fiber channel? What is my best option in terms of understanding what's going on my system, and then being able to optimize it going forward. So we do have some tooling that will allow you to do that kind of stuff, and kind of understand what's going on and pull that in and give that, like I said before, present that information to your domain experts so they can actually make that informed decision. But they don't have to spend all that time analyzing the data, figuring out what's going on, what the trends are, and all that stuff. That's all presented to them. So it kind of expedites that process and gets it to the point where the domain expert can make that informed decision. So the next piece is talking about really this siloing of information. So when we were talking about getting on the plane, if you think about all the things that camera had to actually go through and figure out, it had to figure out if that photo was actually you. Does it match up to a photo on site? Do you have a valid passport? Are you actually allowed to get on a plane? Are you scheduled for a flight? So are you on a no-fly list? If you're going somewhere out of the country that requires a visa, do you have a valid visa? So all of these things are connecting to different systems, right? They are very, very siloed. In most cases, they're talking to different government agencies or different actual physical companies. So you've got a very, very siloed piece of information. So what you really need to drive towards is an open first technology with your data, being able to use those APIs. If you try to bring all that information into one spot, so your intelligence systems would be able to manage them and get access to them, be a massive lift of data and transport and all that stuff. But if you give an open API to get access to that data, it's the same process. The AI system now has access to that data, can make decisions, can help you understand what's going on, and use it to make those logical decisions. So if you're looking at it from an operations standpoint, if an application goes down and is having issues or is being slow, there are hundreds of thousands of places that operator needs to look, and it's probably they don't even have access to all of them. They're going to have to call out the multiple different people. So if it's something that starts in a distributed world, it's probably even a different operations team from the mainframe side. But once it gets to the mainframe, it's probably flowing through Kix. You have a Kix log, you have application code, you have a system code. It's probably going out in the DB2. All these things are different silos. They're different tools for the most part. How many products do you have that actually span multiple tool sets? So like if you're looking at something like CICS, it's probably using a different tooling than your DB2 and a different tooling than your performance monitor. You probably have close to a dozen of these operations tools that all have separate logs, separate domain expertise, separate SMEs. These operations people and the AI tools need to have access to this data in a way that makes sense to them so they can make those logical decisions. So that's really where you need to drive towards that open process. If you try to synergize all these tools together, you're never going to find one. Nobody has a single tool that is going to cover all those, even at a vendor. So you need to be able to have access to the data in the format that the person who's looking for it will understand it. And also so the tools can process through the data and figure out what's going on for you. Okay, so once you have access to that data, then you need to start doing proactive actions and looking at trends. So this is really the same concept as what the shopping sites are doing. They are going through and figuring out from your browsing history and your order history and all that, and trying to figure out what you're going to do next and what you really want next. So this is really what most people think of as traditional AI technology. They're going through and mining through thousands upon thousands of historical logs across multiple different things, and your performance, your CICS, your SMF records, and it's trying to figure out what's going to happen next before it actually happens. So it's trying to come up with that proactive automation system that we've all talked about. So we're looking to really, like you said, this is where people want to find those patterns and start working through and understanding what's going on in their systems faster. So instead of finding out once the problem occurs, maybe the trending will tell you 4 or 5 hours early, or heck, maybe 2-3 days early. So that's really what the goal of this anticipate and trending analysis is. All right, so now that you have all this trending and access to information, you obviously want to have this automation processes in place. So if I can sit there and say that we are going to have capacity issues where these disks are going to fill up, or these transactions are going to overflow the system at a particular time, it'd be really nice to actually go through and make changes, right? Have automated configuration changes, being able to put the systems on some form of adjustment. So we kind of, the technology has been around with the 4-hour rolling average for a while to auto adjust with where we're doing with capacity and all that stuff. Well, this is kind of taking it to the next level. Maybe you need to automatically reprovision the CPU or automatically reprovision disk or whatever, to get to the point where you are um, a, able to run very quickly without having to sit there and take a whole bunch of manual processes. Now, this could actually, this isn't something that you want to just let go. I mean, there are situations where it may be a bad thing in order to automatically provision, or maybe that batch job that's running away that you know is your end of month processing, and it's got to be done at a certain time frame, but your AI technology hasn't learned that yet. Just letting it cancel this is not something that you really want to do. So there has to be those guardrails put in place that allows that human knowledge to have input into the systems and give you that overriding factor, so that you are comfortable with the AI, and have that feedback loop within the system to give you that comfort. But you really want to allow these systems to start automating processes and learning as they go through on your system. It's not something that can really be done out of the box. It needs to learn on your system and get those guide rails from the human knowledge that is there. Okay, so what are we looking to do as we enable AIOps within the operation systems? Is reprioritization of resources, finding more budgets to innovate and improve, anticipating problems in terms of delivering an excellent experience for users, automating wherever possible to reduce manual efforts and minimize errors, and analyzing faster to drive efficiency and execution day to day. So, like I said, this all comes down to having access to lots and lots and lots of data. If an AI system needs to analyze the data, needs to understand what's going on, and on top of that, that human a guide rail that we want to put in place for the expert knowledge needs to have access to how the AI system actually made that decision, so that it can do that next step of guide railing and understand what's going on. So how do we get to the data that we have locked across all these various different silos? Like I said, this is really where having access to an open API system is going to help you out. There is no way that we are going to be able to take all this data and put it into a single location. There's just too much of it, and they're very siloed. The SMEs that are using these tools need to have their tooling with the data that they need so that they can take care of their different silo. But these people that are working across all these different environments also need access to some of this data. So it needs to have both a breadth and depth of knowledge, so that the AI systems can pull that in and understand where to go with it. So what we're looking at doing is integrating across the various contexts. So this is really a map on what you would be looking at and trying to understand. So what we want to have done is have these AI systems come in and look at them and kind of draw out the topology for you. You figure out what's going on. Is if there's an application slowdown, is it in the CICS region? Is it in storage? Is what storage is actually attached to the CICS region? Where can I get access to this data and get it as an operational? And then once it gets access to it, it needs to highlight the meaningful and actionable insights. Where on this map does the person need to actually be concerned? Is there something going on that he can't see? So what we need these AI technologies is to be able to eliminate the noise, get rid of all the irrelevant data from all of that big store of information we have, and present to the human what is actually the issue going on, how it's all tied together. If we're having issues with this particular CICS region, there may have been a change in that Java class at the back that's actually causing the problem, right? So being able to see this map and be able to pull out the relevant data and quickly be able to pull through where the meaningful and actionable insights are is really going to speed up that processing and understanding of what's going on. So, so in summary, I guess this is the last slide, so I will have plenty of time for questions if there are any. Is we are really trying to take this pragmatic approach to AIOps. We're trying to step into it, not trying to jump from that beginning car to the self-driving car all in one step. We feel that there needs to be those iterative steps and processes across it, with a lot of that being focused on opening up the data and opening up the understanding, so that not only is the system getting more and more automated and there are more and more AI technologies going into it, but they are providing those insights to the operations teams and the SMEs, so that they can further drive their knowledge into those AI systems and continuously improve both ends of those processes, and drive the operations and the SMEs to greater and greater efficiency, which is going to drive your systems to greater and greater efficiency and show more processing for your customers. All right, thank you very much. That is the end there. Phil, if there's any questions that anybody has, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Michael. As Michael says, does anyone have any questions? If you could put them through the chat window, I will ask Michael on your behalf. Just got somebody coming back in who dropped out earlier. Hold on. Okay, well, while we wait to see if there are any more questions, I'd like to thank Michael very much for his presentation today. Unfortunately, we can't give you a good round of applause from everyone because everyone else is on mute, but I can give you a round of applause. Thank you so much for that. Thank you everyone for joining. I'd like to remind you, please, about session feedback. This was session AH, and as I said before, you can get it from your BYOA agenda or from the link on the agenda. So it looks like there aren't going to be any questions apart from a thank you from Julia. Thank you, Julia, for thanking Michael. So I will at that point say thank you again once for joining, and I will end the meeting. All right, goodbye. Have a good afternoon, everyone. Bye.